"Why are you here?" my dad asked when I showed up at his retirement party. "This is for people who contributed to my success." I'd paid for his MBA, $87,000. I'd co-signed his first business loan, $340,000. I'd covered his bankruptcy fees, $23,000. I smiled, handed him an envelope, Invoices. Payment expected within 30 days. When his lawyer opened it, my dad spotted me the second I walked into the banquet hall. It was one of those hotel ballrooms that all looked the same. Chandeliers, carpet that hides stains, round tables covered in white cloths. There was a banner across the back wall. "Congratulations, Richard Hayes, celebrating 35 years of success." The slideshow on the far wall was already looping. Photos of my dad shaking hands, cutting ribbons, smiling in front of buildings with his name on the sign. I shifted the garment bag on my shoulder and felt my son squeeze my hand. "Is it okay if I keep the tie on?" Ethan asked. Grandpa said it was a formal event. He was 10, thin, and serious. His clip-on, navy, tie a little crooked. He'd spent the car ride practicing what he'd say when he gave my dad the drawing he'd made. The office building in pencil, tiny windows. My dad's gray hair carefully shaded in. I was about to answer when my dad cut across the room, toward us. Glass in hand, smile already tight. "Why are you here?" he said. "No. Hello. No, you made it." Just that. I actually laughed because I thought I'd misheard him. "We got the invite," I said. "Congrats, Dad. Big night." He glanced at Ethan like he was a piece of furniture someone forgot to move. Then he looked back at me. "This is for people who contributed to my success," he said louder this time, like he wanted the nearby table to hear it. My throat went dry. I felt Ethan's hand twitch in mine. I'd paid for his MBA, $87,000 over 3 years. I'd co-signed his first business loan, $340,000, that would have sunk me if he defaulted. I'd covered his bankruptcy fees, $23,000, when everything fell apart, and he cried in our kitchen like a broken man. But sure, I contributed nothing. "Grandpa, I made you this." Ethan held up the drawing with both hands, voice soft but steady. My dad didn't even look at it. "I don't have time for this, Caleb," he said, eyes flicking toward the stage. "We're doing the grandkids' presentation in a minute. It's already organized." He moved past us toward the front, clapping a board member on the shoulder like nothing had happened. My fingers went numb. For a second, I thought I might just turn around and leave, but Ethan was still standing there drawing in his hands, watching the slideshow. On the screen, a photo of my dad at graduation flashed by, cap, gown, diploma. The caption read, "Never too late to invest in yourself." I was cropped out of the picture. The original had me on one side, my arm around his shoulders. Both of us smiling. I knew because I'd taken the day off work, flown in, and handed him the check that paid off his last semester. "Dad," Ethan whispered, "are we in any of the pictures?" My stomach twisted. "We'll see." I lied. 15 minutes later, the MC tapped the microphone. "Now, before Richard gives his speech, we've got a special surprise from the grandkids." Staff wheeled out a big cake with "World's Best Grandpa" and CEO written in blue icing. My sister Hannah stood up from the front table and motioned to her 2 kids. My brother Josh nudged his son and daughter. "Come on, guys," she called into the mic up front. Ethan started to rise, eyes bright. My dad said sharply from the head table, without even turning around. "This is for the grandkids who grew up in the office. The real Little Hayes heirs." Everyone chuckled like that was a harmless joke. My son froze halfway out of his chair and sank back down. The light just went out of his face. His hands folded in his lap around the drawing. Hannah's kids and Josh's climbed the steps. There were 6 little blue boxes lined up on the podium. Engraved watches from Grandpa Richard. They opened them for the camera while the room clapped. My son stared at his empty place setting. I felt my hand start to shake. I didn't stand up. I didn't make a scene. My body went very still, like it sometimes does when a client tries to talk me into a terrible trade. I took a breath, reached into my inner jacket pocket, and slid the thick envelope out. The one I'd spent 3 nights putting together. When my dad picked up the microphone for his speech, he caught my eye. I smiled at him. Calm, practiced. The same smile I use when a market dives and everyone else is panicking. On his way back to the table, I met him halfway. "Congratulations," I said, and handed him the envelope. He frowned. "What's this?" "Invoices," I said. "Payment expected within 30 days." He snorted like I'd told a bad joke and shoved it toward his attorney, who was sitting at the next table. "Take a look at whatever my son's worked up, will you? Make sure it's nothing I need to actually worry about." His lawyer slid a finger under the flap, pulled out the first page, and his whole expression changed. His eyes flicked over the numbers, then to me, then to my dad. Richard," he said slowly, "we should talk about this privately." My dad's jaw tightened. The room buzzed with background chatter, clinking silverware, someone laughing too loud at the bar. Ethan reached for my sleeve. "Dad, can we go home?" "Yeah, buddy," I said, "I still on my father. We're done here. I'm Caleb. I'm 39. I live in Dallas, Texas. I'm a broker. Retirement portfolios mostly. I spent my days helping people make sure they don't run out of money right when they finally have time to live. Ironic, I know. I'm married to Maya. We've been together 12 years. We have one kid, Ethan, who reads fantasy novels that are way too advanced for him and whispers when he's excited instead of yelling. He's the kind of kid who apologizes when other people bump into him. My parents live 30 minutes away, in a big brick house they like to call the Hay Estate. Like it's a manor and not just a 4-bedroom in a gated community my old money clients would call cute. They've always seen me as two things at once: the responsible child and the walking checkbook. When my dad decided to go back for his MBA at 45, he came to me. "Not my mom, not my siblings. We're investing in the future, son," he said over my kitchen table. "You've always believed in me." Back then I did. I just made partner at my firm. I was proud of him for going back to school. I wrote the tuition checks $18,700 over 3 years. I still remember the exact total because I kept the receipts tucked into a folder labeled Dad Education. When he wanted to open his own brokerage after graduation, the bank said no to a solo loan. He called me at 11:30 p.m. They said if I had a strong cosigner, it's a done deal. "You are a strong cosigner," he said like it wasn't a question. So, I signed $340,000. There's a particular knot you get in your stomach when you sign your name under someone else's debt. It's like tying yourself to a ship and hoping it doesn't sink. Spoiler, it sank. He expanded too fast, trusted the wrong people, ignored my advice more times than I can count. I told him not to put all his eggs in commercial real estate right before the market shifted. He rolled his eyes and called me risk-averse. 2 years later, I was in a lawyer's office with him going over bankruptcy filings while he stared at his hands. "Filing fee is $23. The attorney said, "You need that available right away, or we stall." My dad looked at me with that same hopeful, pathetic expression he'd used when I was 8, and he forgot to buy my baseball cleat. "Caleb, I paid $23,000 on my card." Another line item in the mental ledger I pretended I wasn't keeping. That pattern never really stopped. When the business went under, he couldn't possibly go back to a regular job below his status. So I helped with temporary expenses. There was the month I covered their mortgage. $200 the time their roof leaked. And somehow I ended up booking the contractor and paying the deposit $4,800. Every Christmas, my wife and I would send over a check for incidentals. $30000, then $5,000, then just wire whatever you can. "Son, we're a little tight." My siblings see him very differently. Hannah is 3 years younger than me. She lives 20 minutes away in a house my dad likes to brag he helped them negotiate like that somehow compares to the down payment I wrote. Josh is the baby 6 years younger. He works in sales, which is all anyone says when he shows up late to dinner and leaves early. They both have kids. My parents call them the future of the Hayes name. They have framed photos of them everywhere on the mantle along the staircase in their home office. There's exactly one photo of Ethan in that house. It's from when he was 3, wearing a Santa hat mid-blink. It sits on a side table, half hidden behind a lamp. When Ethan was 8, he asked my mom why there weren't more pictures of him. She laughed it off. "Oh, Grandma's just so busy. I never get around to printing them, sweetheart." But she posts Hannah and Josh's kids on Facebook like it's her job. Little slides like that were easy to excuse at first. The time they took all the grandkids to the zoo and Ethan spent the day at our house because he had school. Even though Hannah's kids did, too. The time my dad introduced Hannah's son as my first grandson, the heir to some stranger at a barbecue. While Ethan stood 3 feet away holding the potato salad, Ethan pretended not to hear. I pretended my chest didn't feel like it was caving in. I kept telling myself they'd come around, that they were old-fashioned or clueless, not cruel. I didn't want to admit they cared more about the kids who lived in the right neighborhood with the right last name in the right photo frames. It wasn't until this year that I stopped making excuses. It started with a simple word. 3 months ago, my dad pitched his newest idea over Sunday lunch. "There's a franchise opportunity," he said, sliding a glossy brochure across the table. "We buy in now. They're projecting double returns in 5 years. I need $150,000 liquid. I figured we could go in together. I said you front the capital. I run the shop." He said like it was obvious. "We split profits 70-30. 70 for you, 30 for me," I said. Of course, I'm the one putting in the sweat equity. Maya squeezed my knee under the table. I could feel her warning in that touch. "Don't do this again." I thought about Ethan's braces. We'd be paying for soon. The college fund we'd been slowly filling our own retirement. Something I, of all people, knew could disappear if you weren't careful. "I can't, Dad," I said finally. "I'm not investing in another one of your businesses." He stared at me like I'd spoken another language. "What do you mean you can't? You're the one with money." "I mean, I'm done funding your risks," I said. "I need to take care of my family." He didn't yell. He just went very, very quiet. My mom changed the subject. Hannah and Josh dove into sports talk, but the temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. They've been punishing me ever since. Fewer invitations, snide comments about how some people forget where they came from. Jokes about me being selfish now that I had fancy clients, but I still showed up, still answered calls, still told Ethan, "Of course, we're going to Grandpa's party. It's important." Apparently, the punishment extended to my son. We drove home from the retirement party, mostly in silence. Ethan sat in the back seat, tie loosened, staring at the drawing in his lap. The street lights stray. "Hey," I said quietly. "You okay back there?" He shrugged without looking up. I guess Grandpa didn't recognize us. My throat tightened. We were right in front of him. "Buddy." He swallowed. He said the people who contributed to his success. "I thought since you help people with money, you did." Out of the mouths of kids. I gripped the steering wheel. "I did." I said I helped a lot. "That's not on you." He traced a line on the paper. "Why didn't he want my drawing?" "Because he doesn't see you. Because you're leverage when he wants to brag, not a person when he wants to give thanks." "I don't know," I said instead. "But that's his loss, not yours." "Okay." He nodded, but his eyes stayed on the paper. He folded it carefully, slid it back into the envelope he brought it in. Maya reached back and squeezed his knee. "How about pancakes for dinner?" she asked. "With chocolate chips?" He nodded again. A little more real this time. That night, after Ethan went to bed, I spread out the folder on our dining table. Old emails, screenshots of transfers, PDF statements, confirmation pages. Dad, education. Dad, business loan. Dad, bankruptcy. Mom and Dad, temporary help. Stuff I'd kept because I'm a numbers guy. And my brain files things and debits and credits whether I wanted to or not. Maya stood in the doorway, arms folded. "You're really doing this," she said. "I am," I said. My voice surprised even me. It sounded steady. "Not revenge," she said quietly. "Not revenge," I agreed. "Accounting." I totaled the education costs again. $87,000. I pulled the original loan agreement and printed the page where my name sat under his. I added the interest I'd covered when he fell behind, $19,500. The bankruptcy fee, $23,000. The temporary support that never really stopped. Monthly transfers that added up to $62,300 over 7 years. I didn't include the Christmas checks or the roof or the random "can you cover this bill" calls. I wasn't trying to bleed him dry. I just wanted there to be a record. On each invoice, I wrote the same line at the bottom. Converted from gift to loan as of retirement date. Payment requested from retirement buyout within 30 days. Maya watched me slip the pages into the envelope. "What if he can't pay?" she asked. "Then my lawyer will file a claim against his estate." I said, "But either way, I'm done." "Done paying," she said. "Done paying." I repeated in every sense. The call started before we'd even finished breakfast the next morning. First, my mom. "Your father is devastated," she said without preamble. "You embarrassed him in front of everyone." I handed him paperwork. I said quietly, "You know what I mean?" She snapped, "Dragging money into his retirement party after everything he's done for you." I actually laughed. "You might want to read those invoices, Mom." She ignored that. "He says he doesn't owe you a dime. Family helps family. That's what you do. You don't send an invoice like some bill collector." "I help my family," I said. "You made it clear last night that you don't consider Ethan part of that group." "I'm aligning the money with the reality." "That's not fair," she hissed. "You know, your father was under a lot of pressure when the business failed. And I was under a lot of pressure keeping my own family afloat while covering his. Nobody made excuses for me." There was a long pause. "So this is it," she said. "You're cutting us off because you felt slighted at a party." I pictured Ethan's face when the watches were handed out. How his fork stayed on the edge of his plate. "This isn't about a party," I said. "This is about years of you treating my son like a background extra while cashing checks for me every time you're in a bind. I'm not your backup bank anymore. Caleb." I ended the call. My hands were shaking, but it felt right. 5 minutes later, Hannah rang. "What the hell was that last night?" she demanded. "Dad's furious. He says you blindsided him. He told my 10-year-old he didn't belong there." I said in front of a room full of people. "Oh my God, he was joking." She said, "You know how he is." "Yeah," I said. "I do." She huffed. "You made Mom cry. I'm sure she'll recover." I said, "Maybe she can dry her tears with some of the interest I forgave." "You think you're so high and mighty because you have money now," she spit out. "We don't all have your options." "You're right," I said. "But you also didn't sign your life away on Dad's loans. You didn't write the checks. You didn't take on the risk." "I did, and he still erased my kid from his big night." Silence. "So what?" she said finally. "You're just what?" "Suing Dad. I'm giving him 30 days to do the right thing." I said, "After that, it's between my lawyer and his. My part is done." "You're unbelievable." She said you could ruin them. "I didn't ruin anything," I said softly. "He did that himself a long time ago. I just stopped cushioning the impact." She hung up on me. Josh texted a few hours later. "Bro, seriously? Dad says you are shaking him down. You know they can't afford this." I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. They couldn't afford the risks either, but they took them on my name, on my future. I have a kid to protect. I'm done pretending this is normal. He left me on read. 2 days later, my lawyer Denise called. "So," she said, "I've heard from your father's attorney, and he wanted to confirm the totals. She said he also wanted to know if you were open to family mediation instead of formalizing this." "What did you say?" I asked. "I said I'd ask my client," she said. "But I also reminded him that your documentation is solid and that you have no obligation to treat this as anything other than what it is. Repayment of personal loans." I closed my eyes for a second. "If he pays from the retirement buyout, I'm done." I said, "No interest, no public drama, just clean records." "And if he doesn't," she asked, "then we proceed," I said. "But either way, I'm done sending money. I want that on the record." "It already is," she said. "I can-led the standing transfer from your joint account this morning for your email. You'll get the confirmation in an hour. One clean move. No more late-night wires. Just this once. No more monthly drip feed disguised as helping out. No more padding their lifestyle while they pretend my son doesn't exist. I took Ethan to school that morning feeling lighter than I had in years. He lingered by the car, backpack slung over one shoulder. "Am I in trouble with Grandpa?" he asked suddenly. "Why would you be?" I said, "For the party," he said. Maybe he didn't want me there. I knelt, so we were eye level. "Hey, listen to me. You didn't do anything wrong. If an adult treats you like you don't belong, that's about them, not you. Got it?" He chewed his lip, then nodded. "Are we going back there?" "Not for a while," I said. "And next time we go to a party, it'll be one where they're happy we're there." He thought about that. "Can we have a party here instead?" A slow smile pulled at my mouth. "Yeah," I said. "I think we can." The fallout came in waves. First, the dramatic text from my mom. "I never thought my own son would humiliate his father this way. Money comes and goes, but family is forever. You're letting Maya poison you against us." Maya rolled her eyes so hard she almost fell off the couch when she read that last one. Then the guilt trips from Hannah. "Mom hasn't slept since the party. The kids are confused why Uncle Caleb is mad. You're breaking this family over a spreadsheet." And the more subtle, twisted messages from my dad himself. He didn't call. Of course he didn't. He emailed. Subject line, clarification. "Caleb, I admit I may have said some things in the heat of the moment at the party that came out wrong. You know how I get when I'm overwhelmed. That said, putting a dollar amount on family support is beneath you. I always intended to make it right with you once things settled. Formalizing it like this creates bad blood that can't be undone. You're my son. Don't let outsiders, lawyers, etc. come between us. Dad." I stared at the screen for a long time. Outside, Ethan was sitting on the porch steps reading, feet jiggling. Inside, Maya was at the kitchen table, laptop open, working on a marketing plan for a local nonprofit. My life, my real family. I hit reply. "Dad, outsiders didn't come between us. Years of you treating my son like an afterthought did. I spent a decade propping up your career with my money, my credit, and my time. When you stood on that stage to talk about everyone who contributed and couldn't bring yourself to look at me or accept a drawing from your grandson, that told me everything. This isn't about a spreadsheet. It's about respect. You have 30 days to honor the invoices from your retirement funds. After that, Denise will proceed. You are no longer on my payroll. Caleb." His response came an hour later and was 3 times as long. I didn't read past the first sentence. I archived it. Then I blocked his number. I blocked my mom's. I muted the group text with my siblings. The silence after that was strange, loud in its own way. I kept expecting my phone to light up, my email to ping something. Instead, days passed. We went to work. Ethan went to school. We made dinner, watched bad TV, cleaned the bathroom on Saturday morning. Regular life. No emergency calls. No, we're in trouble. Can you help? No crisis that apparently only my bank account could solve. The world kept spinning without me constantly stepping in to push. 2 weeks later, my sister showed up at my door. Ethan was on the floor with his Lego spaceship. Maya in the kitchen making grilled cheese. When I opened the door, Hannah stood there in a sweatshirt, eyes tired. "Hey, can I come in?" We sat at the table. Ethan peeked and then went back to his Legos. "Dad's a mess," she said. "He keeps saying you blindsided him. But I saw his face when you handed him that envelope. He knew." I waited. He shouldn't have said what he said about Ethan. That wasn't okay. First time anyone in my family had said that out loud. He's not going to apologize. I said, "I know. He thinks everything you've done is just how it's supposed to be." She sighed. "Look, I'm not here to talk you out of the money thing. After I saw those numbers, I get it. You saw them. Mom showed me. Thought it would prove you were dramatic. It did the opposite." We both laughed once. What I'm here to say is Ethan's invited to Liam's birthday next month. No grandparents, just kids and pizza. If you're comfortable, we'll think about it. I said, "Thank you." At the door, she paused. "For what it's worth, you're right about all of it." Then she left. Maya called from the kitchen. "So, do we hate her or not?" "Not," I said. "Tentative not." Ethan patted over. Was that Aunt Hannah? Yeah, bud. Am I in trouble? No. You're kind of the reason grown-ups are having to grow up. Is that good? It's necessary, I said. Day 30 came and went. Denise called. My father's lawyer had wired a partial payment, education, bankruptcy, and half the business loan. He's framing it as a good faith gesture, hoping you'll meet him halfway. He's about 15 years late on halfway. I said, we'll take it. File for the rest. When the transfer hit, I stared at the numbers on my screen. Money finally moving backwards. It didn't fix the years, but it closed a loop. That night, Ethan and I sat with colored paper and markers. Grandpa had a party, he said. We should have one, too. Our kind. Our kind. I echoed. He drew 3 stick figures holding hands in front of our brick house. Me, Maya, him, and a Lego spaceship in the corner. At the top he wrote, my family. Can we hang it up? I looked at the empty wall above the couch. Yeah. Front and center. We taped it up slightly crooked. Perfect. 2 days later, Hannah dropped her kids for a movie night. No grandparents. No drama, just popcorn, a blanket for kids on our Warren couch. Walking past the hallway, I heard Ethan showing Liam the drawing. That's my family, he said. We're doing our own celebration. Cool, Liam said. Can we draw one at my house, too? Yeah, Ethan said. We can. Something eased in my chest. My parents' chairs stayed empty. Their numbers stayed blocked. Their crisis stayed theirs. It's sad sometimes that my son doesn't have greeting card grandparents. But he has parents who show up who won't let him sit quietly in a crowd while someone with a microphone decides he doesn't count. And me, I don't wait at the back of banquet halls for crumbs of approval from a man who built his success on my credit and refused to say my name. If he ever asks why I'm not there, the answer is simple. I contributed to your success, but I'm done funding a family dynamic that makes my child feel invisible.